When most people think of Led Zeppelin guitar tone, they're probably thinking of something like this. Gibsons and Marshall stacks. I still remember where I was when I found out that a lot of Jimmy Page's most famous guitar parts were recorded on a Tele. But how many people know about the small, affordable American amp that is all over the first Zeppelin album? This video is about the Led Zeppelin guitar tone I could never get right, and how one Supro amp was the exact piece of gear I was missing. Hello Internet, my name is Tesler-Mabé, and today I want to show you how I recreated the blistering and awesome guitar tone from Zeppelin's Communication Breakdown using the Supro Blackmagic Reverb. Thank you so much to Sweetwater Sound for supporting this video and for helping me get my hands on this amazing amp. Sweetwater.com is genuinely one of my favorite places to buy gear, so if you want to get your hands on the Supro Blackmagic Reverb or browse through the insanely awesome catalog of gear they can deliver right to your doorstep, then the link is down below. In my mind, Supro is one of the coolest companies making amps today, but a lot of people might not know how far back their history actually goes. The Blackmagic Reverb is a beautifully built modern recreation of Page's 1959 Supro, with its circuitry modeled quite closely after the original. In the early 60s, before Led Zeppelin and when Jimmy Page was still a session guitarist, he was briefly a member of the British rock band Neil Christian and the Crusaders. Page had a 1959 Supro Coronado 1690T, which apparently was badly damaged after it fell out of the back of the van while on tour. According to this Guitar World article, after being damaged, the amp underwent several modifications. Essentially, the end result was a truly unique hybrid of American and British amp technology. A handful of components were swapped for British parts, and the original pair of 10-inch speakers was replaced with a single 12-inch speaker. The Blackmagic shares the most important characteristics with Page's modified Coronado: 25 watts, the same cathode-biased Class A power section that produces the amp's natural compression and breakup character, and the same single 12-inch speaker configuration that Page's amp was modified to use. Led Zeppelin wasn't yet signed to a label when they recorded their first album. The record was produced on a minimal demo-like budget using a bare minimum of gear. Page's main guitar on the album was his 1959 rosewood neck Fender Tele, famously gifted to him by Jeff Beck and painted with the dragon design at this point. So I'm going to use the closest guitar I have to that. My Fender Vintera 2 60s Telecaster, also with the rosewood neck, sadly not gifted to me by Jeff Beck nor with the famous dragon paint job. So the mystery has been solved. The secret to the legendary Communication Breakdown tone is a Tele plugged straight into a Supro with the amp absolutely cranked to the point of breaking up. Now let's take things a step further. A huge secret sauce element to the guitar tones on this album comes down to how you mic the amp, in particular distance miking. So for the production freaks like myself out there, let me quickly run you through the setup. A Shure SM57 dynamic mic placed pretty much directly on the speaker cone to capture the essence of the amp and that particular Supro mid-range character. Then an Audio-Technica AT2035 condenser placed a couple of feet away from the amp to capture how the amp sound develops and blooms in the first few feet of the room. And lastly, a realistic 33919 electret condenser placed on the other side of the room. This mic is giving you almost no direct amp sound, but it captures the way the amp interacts with the room itself. Blended in subtly underneath the other two, it adds a sense of scale and environment. The distance mic'd room sound is a hugely important element to a lot of the textures and tones on this first Zeppelin album. Now let's talk about that lead guitar tone. An early Jimmy Page guitar tone trick is to use a wah pedal, but not necessarily in the way you'd expect. For the lead guitar tone on Communication Breakdown, you can hear him use his 1967 Vox wah in front of his amp, essentially as a treble boost. Pretty much any wah parked all the way forward in the toe-down position acts as a fixed filter, cutting the low end and pushing the upper mids and treble. Check out how this sounds. So, I hope I've sufficiently proven how a telly into a cranked Supro is really what makes this tone on a fundamental level. But there's one last thing I want to try just for fun. I recently acquired an early 70s Akai GX1900D tape machine. Obviously, all of the classic Zeppelin stuff would have been recorded with tape machines which saturate and color the sound in a way nothing else can. So, after recording the 2 rhythm guitars and the lead guitar part for Communication Breakdown, I ran a little EQ on everything in my DAW to push the tone just a little closer to the EQ profile it sounds like they may have used in the studio back in the day. And then I ran it all into my tape machine to glue all the parts together in that delicious tape machine way. Here's how it all turned out. Okay, that was an extremely fun experiment to see how closely I could recreate one of the most iconic guitar tones in rock history. I feel like this song was very ahead of its time, being recorded in 1968, and I've always thought of the riff and guitar tone as quintessential proto-punk and proto-metal. Thank you so much again to Sweetwater Sound for helping me bring this video to life, and for helping me get my grubby gear-loving hands on this gorgeous Supro Blackmagic reverb. And thank you for watching. Let me know down below if you knew about the Jimmy Page Supro connection, because I honestly didn't until quite recently. And as always, if you enjoyed, please refrain from subscribing. I'm trying to become the least subscribed person on all of YouTube. Thank you, bye.